For me, success is definitely personal. I want to see what I'm capable of doing.
Hey there, thank you so much for tuning in this week. If you're coming back, I really appreciate it. If you're here for the first time, welcome. We're going all in today. We're going to talk about periods, and men, you are not excluded, because chances are you know a female runner, whether you are coaching them or you are a husband or boyfriend to a female runner. It is important that you listen to this and are an advocate for them. So I'm going to share my story, which is what I do on this, and I hope that maybe somehow it can bring some recognition and understanding and sense of support to other female runners out there. So I'm going to tell you my story, and I'm going to tell you kind of how it went for me, and this isn't how it's going to go for everyone, but if I can share, maybe it can give other people an opportunity to realize that it is not normal to lose your period while training, and it is a very important component, and to keep fighting to find answers. So I got my period in 8th grade. I was training at that age, and I had it all the way until I lost it in my sophomore year of college. And at that time, I had lost about 10 pounds. I went from being like my highest weight at that point to dropping about 10 pounds relatively quickly at a time where I wasn't taking care of myself. I don't think that I was providing my body the nutrients that I needed to perform at the level that I was. And I saw that impact instantly. And so after about a year of that, I realized it wasn't just gonna come back. And so I sought out information and I started to do some research, and I realized that this was kind of outside of my realm and I needed help. So I contacted a nutritionist who I worked with, and they suggested that I gain some weight. So I did, and it still didn't come back. And so I kept working, I kept trying to figure out what was going on, and I saw multiple OBs. I had a pretty eye-opening experience where I went to the doctor and they did an internal ultrasound to make sure that my ovaries, my uterus, and everything were functioning properly, and were okay, essentially, which I thought they were because I'd had my period for years leading into the time that I lost it, but they wanted to confirm. And so they were doing the ultrasound, and it was so strange because every ultrasound picture I've ever seen has a baby. And of course mine didn't during my years in college. And I remember thinking, what if I can't ever have kids? What if something happened? And what if something went wrong? What if I messed up my body so much that I can't ever fulfill that dream and that goal in life of having a child? And I remember that fear being really strong and really scary in that moment when I saw that ultrasound with no baby in it. Turns out everything was fine. That wasn't a fear at the time. And so, that helped, but it still didn't solve the problem. I still had no answers. And so I ended up dealing with this for 5 years of constantly questioning what's wrong, why is my body not responding. I saw a second nutritionist to get a different opinion and a different idea, implemented their strategies, and still nothing worked. I ended up seeing 5 different OBs during that time, 3 of which suggested that as long as I just stopped running, I'd be fine. And that didn't make any sense to me because I wasn't running that much more than what I had been whenever I lost my period initially, and I had no problem with it, and it was very consistent until that point. So something was wrong. There was a missing piece. There was something that even though the doctors were saying, hey, it's probably because you lost weight, hey, it's probably because you're running and you're pushing your body too much, I still felt like there was a missing component because I had altered some of those things. I had been injured for some of that time, and I still hadn't gotten it back. So after lots of frustration, lots of tears, several DEXA scans to make sure that my bones were doing okay, with multiple scares there, a chance of osteopenia, lack of bone growth, that were definitely a concern because the research kind of shows that we only gain bone health and bone strength until about the age of 30, and then it starts to decline after that. And so if I was already declining in my early to mid 20s, I was years ahead, and that could lead to a lot of problems later on. So it was definitely concerning. It was really frustrating. I felt like I had done a lot. And so I went on birth control pills to try. That was a suggestion that I was given by an OB, and it was terrible. I hated them. And it wasn't that I had a ton of physical side effects. I had a lot of emotional side effects with it. And I didn't get my period back. So it didn't even work. It didn't help. It wasn't beneficial for me. And that was kind of the last straw where I was like, okay, I'm done with this game. Like, I need to try something different because what I'm doing isn't working. And so I went and saw an endocrinologist, and I instantly gained a lot of clarity because I got a billion tubes of blood work done, and I had an MRI done because there can be some issues with the thyroid, with the brain, different stuff. And so that was done. It came back that I had a cyst on my thyroid and I had an increased prolactin level. And so after all these 5 years of frustration, I realized that it was an endocrine issue, that it wasn't as related and tied into more common issues associated with amenorrhea, REDS, and that the female athlete triad, which is what it was called at that time. And so I ended up going on a non-hormonal pill that I took twice a week. That was a super low dose, but it just decreased the prolactin level. And within 8 weeks, I got my period, and I've had it since, and I was able to get pregnant easily. After getting my period back after my pregnancy, I was kind of concerned whether or not it would come back on its own, or if I would have to then go back on this prolactin medication. And I've had no problems. It came back on its own. It's been 100% consistent. And one thing that has been really interesting that I've done some research on since is that an increased prolactin level is often very misdiagnosed as an amenorrhea REDS issue. And the reason is that, and this is what I've learned over the years, that's the sports bra friction of being a female athlete wearing a sports bra actually stimulates the prolactin hormone. And so prolactin basically makes your body think that it's breastfeeding a baby. And so it can be a contributing factor as to why you don't get your period. And so that was an issue for me, and apparently this has been an issue for other female athletes as well. And so again, this is my story, and everyone's story is going to be different, but the reason I wanted to share it is because I wanted to first and foremost say that it is not okay that female athletes at the highest level do get their period, and they need it to compete strong and healthy. Secondly, if you're not getting your period, seek help, guidance, and don't stop until you start finding answers. And I hope that this can give you some courage to start that journey. This was my journey. I shared it. I went through a lot of different steps to try and figure out what was happening. I know I wasn't taking care of myself the way I should have at the beginning. I tried to make those changes, and over time I did, and it still didn't happen for me. And so don't stop until you get answers. Don't stop until you figure it out, because there is an answer, and there is a lot better of an opportunity for you to pursue your goals, to run healthy, to run injury-free, and to be as strong as you possibly can. So, to the guys that are listening, I'm sure that there is a female athlete who you can share this information with. So please tag them or copy this and send it over to them. For the women that are listening, thank you so much. This may or may not be applicable to you, but I'm sure that you've heard of it, and I'm sure that there is someone in your life who it could be beneficial for them to hear this. And I also am very open to hearing your stories, and I would love to help you if you're in a difficult time right now. So please don't hesitate to DM me on Instagram. You can find me at Neely S. Gracie on most channels. I am also easily reachable on my website. You can find my email address, and I would love to be able to support other women in this, because it's something that I'm very passionate about and something that I know I've had so much frustration with, and I also had so much support with. I emailed and talked to in person and on the phone so many professional runners who had experienced the same situation. I remember specifically having breakfast with Jenny Behringer Simpson. I remember emailing back and forth with Kara Goucher and then talking about it on runs. I talked with Sarah Slattery. I talked with Lauren Fleshman. These people who I had looked up to and aspired to for so many years had gone through this, and they provided insight and support to me when I was going through it. And so I want to be that person for you now. So please reach out, don't hesitate. And this is something that, obviously is challenging to talk about. It's kind of awkward, it's kind of weird, but it needs to be addressed. And I hope that you hearing this can help you feel more confident and more comfortable talking about it too. All right, so give me a follow, Neely S. Gracie, and subscribe to my channel, like this. I'd love to hear what else you would like me to talk about, if there's any other important topics that you feel would be beneficial. All right, so cheers. Let's do this, guys. We can talk about hard things. We can get through hard times. I'll see you next week.